Have you ever been in love with a particular piece of tribal synergy and thought to yourself, this card is great, but it's not worth building a deck over? Well, I'm here to tell you that you don't need to play mediocre lords or vanilla grizzly bears to make use of some of the most interesting and powerful cards ever printed. In this series, we will explore tribal packages and themed synergies that let your decks utilize the best of what Magic has to offer, in 10 cards or less. This is Traversing the Tribal Trap.
Hey everyone, I'm here at the card table, and I'd never really been one to build tribal decks, but that's not to say that tribal cards aren't some of the most interesting cards ever printed. I'm here to show you that you don't need to build a full-on tribal deck to make use of some of the coolest cards Magic has to offer. There's two core tenets of this series. The first is that the cards I show you need to be splashable, meaning I can't show you a 25 card tribal package. We're going to keep it down to 10 cards or less. The second of which is that all cards, or at least most of them, must be good cards when drawn without the others. So that means that they're individually good cards, not just only synergistic. Additionally, I prefer to show you actual cards because then you have some sort of faith that I actually have played these before. If I'm just showing you pictures of cards, there might be some deniability. Maybe I'm just, showing you things that I haven't tried. But, well, I have tried this, and I think it's pretty good. So why don't we just get started with our 7-card Minotaur package. First card, and pretty much the reason to run this package, is Deathbellow Warcry. This card is an 8-mana sorcery that says search your library for up to 4 Minotaur creature cards with different names and put them onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. Now, I can't think of many other cards that allow you to put upwards of 20 mana of creatures into play for only 8 mana. I say only 8 mana, but of course it's a lot. But, I'm going to show you a little bit later in this video a combo with this card that, with certain conditions met, will deal upwards of 248 damage to the table. Alright, well, let's get into our Minotaurs that you will be getting with Deathbellow Warcry. The first one I'd like to show is Sethron, Hurloon General. This is a 5-mana 4/4 that says when it or another non-token Minotaur enters the battlefield, you create a 2/3 Minotaur token, and it has the ability to pay 3 mana, and Minotaurs you control get +1/+0 and gain Menace and Haste until end of turn. Obviously, this is going to be good if you have a lot of Minotaurs, but I just want to emphasize that this is an okay card when it's just drawn and played for 5 mana. It creates 2 bodies, blockers or attackers. You can give them evasion and haste. It's not bad. And when you draw other Minotaurs after the fact, you get to, if this is still on the board, you can get an extra token with it. Our next card is Neheb the Eternal. If you can't read Chinese, Neheb the Eternal is a 5-mana 4/6 with Afflict 3, and it says the most important part of it is that in your post-combat main phase, you get to make red mana equal to the amount of damage your opponents have been dealt this turn. So it's a very important part of the combo I'm showing off, and it's just kind of a powerhouse card in any deck that wants to deal damage. Probably through combat would be better, but maybe you play a burn spell or something, and then post-combat you make 15 mana just with this one card. So next card is the other Neheb, Neheb Dreadhorde Champion. It does a similar thing of generating mana. It's a 4-mana 5/4 with Trample, and when it deals combat damage to a player or a planeswalker, you can discard a number of cards in your hand, and if you do, draw that many cards and add that much red mana, and it doesn't empty out of your mana pool as steps and phases end this turn. So this isn't a key part of the combo, but this is just a good Minotaur on its own that's going to be powerful in a boatload of decks. It has Trample, so getting the damage in with it is easier than you might expect. And just getting a little bit of damage can allow you to either play an expensive creature or spell on turn 5 or something, or just let you fix your draws if you happen to be drawing too many lands or something. Alright, the next card I want to talk about is Mirog, Fury of Akum. I kind of feel like Mirog is kind of a mono-red version of a Boros finisher like Aurelia the Warleader, or a white finisher like Elishnorn. It is this kind of one-card big damage kind of source for any creature-based, combat strategy. It's really powerful, and it's a big part of the combo. Next, and this is probably the only card I'll be showing off that is kind of mediocre on its own, this is Kragma Warcolor. It is a 5-mana 2/3 that says Minotaurs you control have haste, and whenever a Minotaur you control attacks, it gets +2/+0 until end of turn. Yeah, this is just pretty much in the deck for you to tutor up with your Deathbellow Warcry and give all of your Minotaurs haste. It's not great on its own, but I mean, technically, if you just, play it at some point when you have the mana open, and then you follow that up with something like, you know, a Neheb Dreadhorde champion, it can quickly make things go well. So this is the worst card on its own, but could be worse, I guess. And the last card on this list is Fanatic of Mogus. You know, I think this card has gotten a little bit of underrepresentation, you know, because obviously, you know, you've got the mono black Gray Merchant, which is kind of this but better. But, you know, Fanatic is 1 mana less, and for the purposes of this deck, it's a Minotaur that can be tutored out if, you know, your opponents have fog effects or something. So you just need to get like 7-10 damage to each of them, something like that. You can crack through. Additionally, because this is in black-red, you have access to effects that will reanimate him. So even something simple like play him and then sack him to something, then reanimate him can do, you know, 15 damage or something to the board if you've got enough red pips. So that is can be powerful. All right, well, why don't I show off the combo that I've got in mind here. Now, there's a lot of combos you can do with Deathbellow Warcry, depending on, you know, whatever your board looks like or what your needs are. For this combo, all you need is 8 mana, Deathbellow Warcry, and a mountain to play afterwards. So we will cast Deathbellow Warcry and tutor up Morog, Neheb the Eternal, Sethron, Heirloom General, and Kragma Warcaller. When these all enter, Sethron will see itself and the other 3 Minotaurs enter and create 4 Minotaur tokens. And then you will go to attack probably anyone who is open or close to open. So you'll attack them all with all your creatures, because you're trying to just get as much damage as possible to make mana with Neheb. So all of your attacking creatures will get +1 power from Morog, and +2/+0 when they attack from Kragma Warcaller. So you've got 5 5-power attackers, 2 7-power attackers, and a 9-power attacker, leading up to a total of 48 damage. Assuming that all that damage gets through, you'll go to your second main phase, and Neheb will make 48 red mana, which you can then pump in to Sethron. Pump all that mana 3 at a time to give all your creatures +1/+0, Menace, and Haste. Then you will play your land for the turn, giving you an extra combat with Morog. And then you will go to your second combat, untap all of your creatures with Morog's effect, and attack at the table. And these creatures, I'll put the exact numbers up on screen, but these should be about 22 power each. Menace, some of these being a little bit more, and the total damage that you'll do to the table is 248. So that's really cool. Obviously, you know, this does require some specific situations. For example, you've got to get your first combat damage in to get the most of that damage. But even if, let's say, you know, your opponent that you attack has 3 blockers or something, maybe they're not big enough to kill your stuff, maybe they are. So maybe you leave behind the important ones. You leave behind these 2 creatures because you're going to need them in your second main phase, and you just attack them with all these. And then maybe they block 3 of them and kill. Maybe you leave this back. Maybe they kill 3 creatures here. You're still going to get in for 10 damage, and you'll be able to activate this 3 more times, and then you'll be able to attack for even more in the second main phase, a lot more. Maybe not kill the whole table numbers, but still very impressive. There's also some other lines you can do with the other Minotaurs here. For example, if you want to get Fanatic of Mogus, if you can't attack or something, something like this will be on its own 7 devotion to deal 7 to the table, and then you wouldn't even have to attack in the first combat. So this would be your board here, and then you go to your second main phase, and then Neheb would trigger, and because you dealt 21 damage to the table with the Fanatic of Mogus, or more if you had other red pips on your field, you'll get 21 mana that you can give them all Menace and Haste, and then swing in again. So that's pretty cool. Additionally, I'm going to talk about some other cards that can make this kind of combo go off better. The first list of which are Oblivion Sower, Wayfarer's Bauble, and Solemn Simulacrum. Notably about these cards is they're colorless ways to put a land into play in your second main phase, because obviously you need to have a land to get the second combat trigger, a landfall to get the second combat trigger with Morog. So if, let's say, you have to play your land to get enough mana to to cast the Death Bell War Cry, so let's say it's turn 8 and you don't have any mana ramp, so you play your land, cast Death Bell War Cry, do that same combat thing I showed in before, and then in second combat, because you made a ton of mana off of Neheb, you can play a Wayfarer's Bauble and crack it, or play a Solemn Simulacrum. So that's a cool way to get that off. Additionally, on that same level, cards like Thran Dynamo and Gilded Lotus, that is just cards that will allow you to kind of get to 8 mana faster, are going to be more powerful in this deck, because obviously, if you can get this off on turn 5 or something, right, like by for example, playing a Thran Dynamo on turn 4, and then turn 5 playing your land, casting Death of Warcry, maybe you have a Solemn in your hand or something, to get the kill off. Like if there is a player that is defenseless, you probably are able to kill the table with that, so that's pretty impressive, obviously. Some other cards that I got to show off are Profane Tutor. I think this is interesting because normally if you wanted to Demonic Tutor or something for this kind of effect, people would know that you've Demonic Tutored, or you have to have 10 mana or 11 mana if you haven't played our land yet to be able to get this off on one turn. So Profane Tutor lets you kind of bank that mana ahead of time and maybe play it on turn 6, and then suspend it on turn 6. Then on turn 8, you get to untap and get the tutor off and get your card. Additionally, Blasphemous Act is a card you can play for 1 mana before you cast the Deathbell Warcry, because to clear the board, so you can kind of get in and kill people. Additionally, I think cards like Ignite the Future are pretty cool, because if you're already playing a bunch of big Minotaurs, and you're probably playing kind of a big mana deck if you're doing this strategy, and being able to flash back and maybe you hit a Deathbell Warcry with it, and then you can just cast it for free. Just a cool card for that. And then last, on that same note, something like Crackle of Power. If you're worried about people killing your creatures in combat or something, or you're worried about like fog effects, maybe you just do like this play where you just get the Fanatic Amogus, deal 21, go to your second main phase. Now you have 21 red mana, and you can cast Crackle of Power for X equals 1,000,000 and just dome the table. That'll be enough to kill people. So yeah, that's about what I have to share for you today. I hope you liked the ideas and try it out. Some of these cards are not the cheapest in the world, but as you can tell, if you get foreign cards like me, they can be a little bit cheaper. Thanks for watching.